Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today guys, I have a good one for you. We're going to be going over what I learned playing Omen in Immortal. Now, I have compiled a list of about 10 different sort of tips and things that I've learned over the course of playing Omen this season in Immortal. And as you guys know, I started out as a Brimstone player, so I had to make the switch this season, or this act I should say, and there's a lot of things I realized, and a lot of really cool things that I sort of looked past with Omen, and I've sort of realized, hey, this is the way to go for the future for me, and it's really helped me play better. So hopefully you guys find this video useful. If you do, hey, maybe subscribe, leave a like, really helps me out, lets me know I'm doing something good, and leave a comment as well. Let me know what you want to see for the next videos. But without any further ado, let's begin. Starting things off with tip number 1, and that is that I realized that I can now smoke across the map to help my teammates with Omen. This just wasn't possible with Brimstone. One of the really cool things I've found is when I'm playing on maps where I'm not playing in mid, so maybe I'm playing a map like Bind and I'm hanging out on A site, I can now smoke over towards Octagon, over towards B teleporter over there, from A site, and it's amazing. So this means on rotations, I'm so much more used to my team. And this is something that poor Brimstone players are so limited on their smoke. This is really, really useful because this means that now I am an asset to my teammates even when I'm not on the bomb site with them. I've been able to help so many people stop rushes and you know, cut off pushes because, oh no, there's an Omen smoke suddenly here. We thought he was playing on another bomb site. Well, I just smoked across the map. And that is one of the super cool things to note about Omen, is that the distance of his smokes are just so incredibly far. Now, tip number 2, and the next thing I learned, is that just teleporting into spawn really doesn't work very well in Immortal. Now, at lower ranks, a lot of people will use Omen's ultimate just kind of to go into the spawn point of the enemy team. This isn't exactly the best use. What I've started doing, and what's actually worked out really nicely for me, is when my team is ready to execute on a site, I'll use my smokes to help them cut off choke points, you know, block CT and things like that on attack. And then what I'll actually do is I'll use my teleport to get into the back part of a bomb site, you know, look around, see if I can spot players as my team's attacking. This forces the enemy team to kind of turn around, check where you are, or completely ignore you. Now, if they completely ignore you, there's also a chance that you just kind of zone in there like, hey, I'm behind you guys now. This has helped a lot. I do this a lot on, let's see, it's B site on Ascent, where you go into the back of the bomb site there. You go into that little boathouse area, and you just sit in there. I love doing that, and it's helped so much with taking these sites. But remember, it's really important to use your smokes first. Get that utility out just in case your teleport goes wrong. Now, the third thing that I learned is that Omen has an ability called Paranoia, if you didn't know. And it happens to be one of the best abilities in the game at clearing out spaces for your team to push into. Now, it's a little bit harder if you're not the one, if you're trying to lead the charge as well. But if you use it more of a support role, kind of like how a Breach would flash in his teammates, it works super well. There are certain spots on maps, like inside of Hookah, for example, on Bind over towards B, or B Heaven on Split, for example, where you can stand in certain spots and Paranoia through for your team, and it completely clears out those angles because of how wide it is. A lot of people don't realize how wide Paranoia is, but it's extremely useful for clearing out tough positions, forcing the enemies out of bad spots and into the open, and just taking easy fights and helping your team rush in. This is something I realized very early on when I switched to Omen. I love the fact that he has a Paranoia, unlike Brim, who has nothing like it. And I use this in a very support-oriented role for my team and help them push in, help those duelists get those entry frags. Now, the fourth thing I realized, and this unfortunately took me a little longer than I'm comfortable talking about, is that Paranoia plus Shrouded Step is an extremely useful combination, even at the higher rank. What you can do with this is, because Paranoia also distorts sound, you're able to Shrouded Step, which is his little mini teleport essentially, past enemies and through smokes and things of that nature without the enemy being too keen on it. And this is something I've started doing a lot on pistol rounds. If I have these abilities available, is I'll smoke, I'll get one Shrouded Step, and I'll have my Paranoia. I'll sort of Shrouded Step myself through a smoke and get behind the enemy, and they will be none the wiser. This is something that you have to be careful with. You know, a lot of people try to pull a flex ninja and just go crazy with this. Be smart with how you do it, but this to me is something I use pretty sparsely, maybe once a game, but it almost always works out really well when I've been using it. You just have to use it smart, but it's super fun to do and allows for some really big plays. This type of movement, once again, just not available with an agent like Brimstone for me, which is why I'm having so much fun playing Omen. All right, now my 5th tip is that on defense, Omen can use his Shrouded step to get on top of Highground. So one of my favorite spots to do this is actually on the map Haven on a site. There's those 2 boxes right above sewer that you can Shrouded step onto, or the like the L-shaped boxes which kind of connect over towards long there that you can get on top of. Either is fine. I prefer the ones right next to sewer connecting to it. You can go up there about maybe once per half, I would say. So only do it one time, because as soon as you do it, they're gonna know you're gonna go up there after you get your kills. And trust me, guys, it's like a free kill every single time. People just do not have that awareness to look up at that moment because they're so worried about people peeking them from ground level, from the left or the right, or from close in sewer, that they don't actually take the time to clear above. So depending on how you're holding that angle, sometimes you can get a free kill. Now, this isn't just on Haven. This is on all the bomb sites across. Think about all the different high grounds you can take where you can get on top of. Think like APC on Bind on a site right there next to U-Haul. You can get on top of that. Hold some really fun angles. I started using Shrouded Step pre-round so the enemy doesn't hear you, and I get on top of stuff all the time. It's a lot of fun, and it brings a new dimension to how I play this agent, because I now can take high ground without ever having to like worry about it, and I can be up there whenever I want to. It really plays a lot of mind games with the enemy as well. I highly recommend that if you do play Omen, you use your Shrouded Step often in pre-round to get on top of things and take fights from different angles. Now, the 6th thing I want to talk about in this video is that Omen has kind of a really fun way to solo sites when he's playing super passively. So what I actually have started doing is when I know a rush might be coming and for some reason I'm soloing a site, maybe I'm playing an anchor role that game, my team is all rotated and they left me alone, is I'll play extremely passive and let the enemy team start taking site control. It means they literally are inside the site with me, and then drum roll please, I'll use my Paranoia. Now, the reason for this is because a lot of times the enemies are not going to think that someone like an Omen is going to be sitting on a site, nonetheless that he's also going to have Paranoia still. So because of this, I've actually been able to figure out different locations I can sit on a site to then use my Paranoia to get like the perfect blind on people, and then I peek the corner, get 1, 2, 3 kills, whatever it is, you know, and allow my team to hopefully get the win in that round. This is something that takes a lot of practice, and there's going to be some failure with this too, but you know, on sites like a site on Bind, where you can sit behind the little television or whatever that box is on site, you can also sit, you know, behind the little the box by Hell as well. You can do this on B site. You can pretty much do this on any site where there's a choke point where players are going to come through. You kind of let them start coming through with Omen, and then you Paranoia them. It works so well, and the reason it works so well is because of how wide Paranoia's range is. It goes far, but it also has a nice spread. People do not respect this ability enough. They don't respect it like at all, and you can get so many kills off of it. Even in Immortal, it still is undervalued so much, and the enemy team just does not realize what you're capable of sometimes. You can get a lot of free kills that way. So I started doing that a lot, and it's worked out really well for me. All right, now tip number 7 comes in here, and this is something I did on Brimstone, but I have an even better time doing it with Omen, and that's that I can consistently smoke off offers. And this is something that with Omen you have to constantly remember to do, because your smokes regenerate. So this took some time for me, obviously, as you can imagine, the Brimstone player thinking he's out of smokes and then they start regenerating. But nonetheless, one of the really cool things about this too is you don't have to be that close like you did with Brimstone to smoke them out. Think about a site on Bind and how annoying it is to get up close and personal over to Heaven if you just want to smoke off Heaven and you don't want to smoke APC to cover that angle. Well, you have to get super close. Now with Omen, you can do it from much further away. But one thing that's really important to remember is that when you're using these smokes, you have to continue to refresh them. So this is where staggering smokes comes in as well. You know, using one, waiting a few seconds, using another. Good callouts here help a lot, but being able to constantly smoke off and op with an Omen is so nice, and it's helped my team take so many bomb sites. As we all know, ops are extremely oppressive in this game, so any opportunity you have to take away their shot, you want to be able to do it. Now, tip number 8 is actually a really fun tip, and this is something a lot more people should realize. Once you start getting to those higher levels, and actually I'll just say this, at any level, it is very dangerous to run onto sites or in areas where someone might be holding an angle. So the one cool thing about Omen's kit is that if you don't want to waste a smoke covering that push, you can actually Shrouded step instead. So think about on, let's say, B site on split. You're coming on attack here, you want to get on the site, but you know someone's up there in heaven watching that push out of B main. Maybe you've already killed the Cypher on site or something, you're like, all right, I gotta get on site somehow. Well, guess what? If you stand right there at the entrance, you can actually Shrouded step behind that center pillar, get yourself into a safe spot, and then play from the site now, and maybe take a fight with the guy in heaven from a different angle. You can pretty much apply this anywhere. This is something I've started doing a lot, especially, you guys know me, I like to play aggressive, and I get caught out in bad spots sometimes. Maybe, for example, there was a time recently I was actually playing on Haven, and I was on C site. I was stuck behind C plat back there with a pistol rush running at me. I had to get out of there, so what I did was, I Shrouded step from behind plat, which is safe, to behind site, and then I was able to escape through CT before they got to me. And this is just another example of how you can use your abilities to sort of outsmart the enemy. Don't even give them the opportunity to kill you. Don't even let them have line of sight on you. Just get out of there completely unnoticed, and it works so well. Now, another thing I learned coming here at number 9 is that Paranoia works really well when the enemies have no idea it's coming. Now, of course, there's a sound cue, and visually you can obviously see it, but what I've started to do is trying to figure out, okay, if I know there's only one person that I want to hit with this, you know, for example, sometimes you'll just throw it in a wider spot to maybe get somebody else who you don't know is there. But when you're really focused on one person, if you can hide your Paranoia through obstacles, through walls, through barriers, through the ground even, you can get a lot more blinds that way. And it pisses people off because they can't see it coming. So if you're able to do this just by adjusting the angle you throw it at, remember, it doesn't matter what's in the way, it's going through it. So this is something I've started doing a little bit more on maps like Ascent and Split, for example. Quite recently, we were taking B site on Split on attack. I actually was able to Paranoia through the ground into Hell, so under Heaven where the rope is, for 2 players, and I nailed 2 players with it. It was perfect for our attack. And that's just an example of, if they can't see it coming, they're probably not gonna be able to dodge it, and you get the easy blinds. And finally, tip number 10, the 10th thing I want to talk about in this video is something that cannot be stressed enough. And that is about how important mid presence is and how important mid pressure is. So getting pressure in mid is super important because mid tends to be the spot where, you know, as it is, it's the middle of the map. And as such, it has multiple ways to get to it on most maps. Because of this, it means if you don't hold it, you might be getting flanked and you might not realize it. So one of the great things about Omen is that on most maps, there is one smoke you can use in the middle of the map to completely cut off the enemy control. On Ascent, it's right there in the little archway. On Split, it's on the stairs. Unbind, not so much because there's not really a middle unbind technically. And let's see, finally on Haven, you could use a smoke, I guess, in B site technically, if you want to cut off mid, or you can even throw one window, doesn't matter. But really, here I'm talking about steps on C, so in the middle there on the steps, and I'm also talking about Ascent in the archway in mid. And the reason why I say this and why it's so important is because when you lose mid control, you tend to lose the rounds. And what's great about Omen is his smokes recharge. So you can constantly put down a smoke in mid as long as your team needs you to. It's just important that you remember you have to refresh it every now and then. The longer you keep that smoke up, the more pressure you apply, even if you're not there. Sometimes all you need to do is just smoke. Whether you're in attack or defense, all you have to do is smoke. And that's all it takes to stop the enemy from pushing. So really important to use your smokes for mid presence, even if you're not playing there yourself. And guys, that is going to conclude the video on what I learned playing Omen in Immortal. Now, as you know, I did make the switch from Brimstone, so I think it's only fair that soon I go over why exactly I made the switch and why it's working so well for me. But if you enjoyed these tips and sort of what I figured out while playing out this rank on a new agent, leave a like, let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and of course, hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see more. I really appreciate it, all the support, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, and peace.